like, a lot of the days we're walking over this Camino thing in
Like some
Spain.
nacho rubber.
So it's like 20,
I had
28
banana bread for
kilometers
breakfast. I've got
a
coffee.
day,
So much
5
food at
days.
home. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
take it.
So I've been,
What are you doing? Trekking through the mountains?
it's not totally clear.
Wow. Sure.
But I missed that.
So you want to stand in a small room? I will. Maybe I'll sit.
3:30
See
to
it.
4:30.
I guess we're starting. Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you all for your interest in this subject. I know it's a provocative one. People have thoughts on religion and gentrification. So, you might know some of these facts before I even start. In the fastest gentrifying neighborhood in Denver, right now, where property values are going up the very fastest in the last 3 years.
Rhino?
Rhino.
Okay, 300% in about 4 years.
Wow.
We don't have to ask what's going to happen when gentrification comes or what may. It's happening, and it's here. In 5 points, property values from 2009 increased between most traditionally low-income Denver. This is a map I put together, which documents, back in 1990. Back in 1990, these are families earning $100,000 or more. This is Coors Field. This is 20th Street, which developers called the frontier, and that's important imagery. What the frontier, which suggests about who's on one side of the frontier and who's on the other. So it's this kind of colonial imagery. But on one side, you have families earning over $100,000 in 1990, 2000, and 2015. This is Rhino in 5 points. Right over here. We're talking Curtis Field, and then over here, Curtis Park, Rhino, 5 points up here. This is the Old East Village, the largest public housing project in Denver, no longer in existence. And these are city subsidized projects, these triangles. So, these are all just things we all know. It's happening so fast, so dramatic. And anybody that's been in Denver a few years knows this story about how this movement also. Hi, what was that, sir? Do you want to? Yes. I think he gave he flipped them on. It was a big political bit of contention in Denver over what these numbers actually mean. Because this is right about here. We're gentrifying the neighborhood. Well, what that means? Well, that neighborhood was, and that's 5 points, 50 to 60% African American for decades. In fact, we were segregated, where if you're African American, you couldn't live anywhere other than 5 points without risking lynching. Or worse, or not worse, as a case, without risking lynching to run a business outside of that neighborhood. So there's deep racial tension over this kind of sign. And these are another story. These kind of housing where the city has declared this is blighted, and this is true. This is now also Curtis Park. This is blighted, so the owner must sell this building to upwardly develop it. And we'll talk about how it's going to happen. Here at this public housing project, the state has torn down almost all our public housing projects in Denver in the last 20 years, where the state actually tears down the public housing, removes it, turns it into a private investment opportunity.
Is that Lincoln Park?
What's that?
Is that Lincoln Park?
Look,
program?
I think this one is. Yeah, this would be a South Lincoln.
How?
Right?
That's where I grew
Oh,
up.
that's a long. So I'll answer quickly. For everybody here, I teach a gentrification course every spring. So full course, gentrification and social equity. Would love if anybody is interested to come to some of those, because that's a big question. How? The quick answer is, in the last 30 years, the federal government has moved away from providing socially owned housing, which we own as a people, collectively owned housing. We said, no, that doesn't work. It has to be investment opportunity housing. So we will partner with private parties to provide the public housing. And like a third of it will be public, but 2/3 won't be public. That's good because it mixes incomes, is the argument. Also, profits can be made on this property. You can restore urban land to profitability while still housing low-income people, because the partner has to agree. Oh, I'll house 20% low income. But here's the deal. This, we tear down
So
we replace about half the units we tear down.
you were using the word generically, not in reference to Colorado specifically?
No, it's happening across the nation.
Right.
We don't build public
State.
housing anymore. But here in Denver, we are tearing them down and rebuilding half of what we tear down, and then bringing in a bunch of rich units to go with it. And that's how we restore value to inner city property. And you can argue this is better for people to live in these units. It's income mix. There's jobs, and you can make that argument. It's made all the time. But you can't deny that half of the hard stock of low-income housing units were removed. Absolutely removed. This is the next neighborhood to come. This is Sun Valley. It is 100% looked for. It's 95% public housing. It's got a few homeowners, like 5 people who own homes, and then it's got a shelter for women fleeing domestic violence. It's all going. I do my tours in my class. It will not exist in a few years from now. It is all coming down. It's the last poorest neighborhood in Denver. It's all going down. They're going to bring in this private public mix. Meow Wolf is coming in. Some other things are coming in. They're going to like restore, make this a green park-like neighborhood. All these people will still have a place to live, is the argument, but they're going to live with upper-income people. It'll be better for everybody.
Tony, so does the city or whatever state have any responsibility to the residents in public housing to help them?
Yeah. So Hope 6 is the name of this project. Over the decades, no, not much. Meaning the state says, you all move, we're going to rebuild this nicely, and then if you wish to come back, you can come back. However, typically what they do is, first they don't track people and those people just disappear. That happens all the time. Secondly, when they come back, they typically will then, well, let's look at your record. Because we're now nice. We have upper income people living here, and we're not just going to take any old person. Oh, you've got a robbery on your record? No, you can't come in. You've got a drug arrest on your record? You can't come in. You've got a bankruptcy on your record? You can't come in. So, yes, letting low income people come back in who have the best records on paper for not like ruining this beautiful new thing we just built. And so that meant that a lot of people that got displaced couldn't come back in. Other low income people could, but not the people who lost their housing. In this particular one, in Sun Valley, they promised they're going to build a new unit, and everybody that lives there now can move in before they tear down the old stuff. So this will be the first time that they build the new units first, move people into them, then tear down the old. And it's a promise that everybody there can stay.
Like a tall, a big,
Yeah,
really.
more dense.
Well, everything they build now is very ugly, but so is that.
So here's my the Ilana version. And that's a book that kind of documents this supposed kind of cultural sea change. And that's what's going on. The people with money just simply want to live in the city, and the people that have less money can't compete. So that's how it goes. There's chairs here if you'd like to move up and sit down. You really can. Or not. Just letting you know. It's if you get the squeezing by is hard.
I'm fine. I'm
Got it.
fine.
Or drag one in. Thank you. Sorry for that.
No.
But I want to say this is problematic. So here's a couple reasons why this kind of approach is really problematic. One, it's everywhere. Everywhere you go on this planet, money is pouring into urban centers. Even areas that don't have the American style, sterile suburbs with people living out their kids in the suburbs that didn't grow that way, it's still pouring into cities. Even in countries without the demographic trend of childless professionals and empty nesters coming back to the city. So that's one. It's planetary. Something is happening on a planetary scale. Unless we all had our consumption change at the same moment, in the same way, it's problematic. Secondly, there's no demand. Meaning, we are building vast ghost cities, especially across the Middle East and Asia, of immense state-driven mega projects that are taking kind of lower income rural areas or traditional villages and just wiping them off and putting up the towers, and nobody living there. So that's not like some demand that is driving. They're vast, they're all over. Dozens of them. That nobody hardly is living in. They're just putting up the towers with capital.
But don't they need housing? I mean, especially in China, why do they not?
Well, ultimately, they want them to fill. Yeah, ultimately, China is building a lot of housing also for low-income people moving into the cities. So they are building lots of housing, trying to move everybody into the new industrial China. These are pretty high income. Those aren't meant for the rural folk that have no money moving into the cities. These are serious investments. The Chinese sovereign wealth fund is making. I'm going to connect to Denver. Yeah.
I just want to add to that. The Chinese are also going into Southeast Asia and land grabbing a lot and doing a lot of things.
And that's
Isn't it
the
slow?
largest wealth fund in the world right now is the Chinese sovereign wealth fund. And there's many other big ones. That's the biggest one. It's the Chinese state is one with huge money that they've accumulated off of their great leap forward, and then all this money, because we're not paid that great, so the state has just accumulated massive pools of investment capital. Never in the history of the world has there been a government with this much investment capital sitting there, needing a place to land, needing a place to put it. You can put it in gold. I'll say later. These are vertical gold bricks. These are vertical gold bricks. That's what they are. They're storing wealth. They're storing it and waiting to just hold wealth. Instead of buying a whole brick, let's buy this building and just hold it. And that's happening globally. That's the driving force. So, elaborate. So, and they're just holding them empty. This one, Mike Berry and I, and Ellie, we went here. So they can vouch a little bit for, this is Songdo, South Korea, the world's largest development project on earth in the last 15 years. $1 trillion. There was no single bigger private development project. They built all this on a marsh, sand flats, out of nothing. They just threw it up there. This guy, Stan Gale, he's the master plan, showing us like, oh my God, all this is coming. It's going to be great. We're going to build it all. Nope. But nobody lived there when they built it. Mike, Ellie, when we went there.
There was people that were mad about it. There was like protest signs in the windows saying like, get out of here and stuff.
So there was some contention over it. And as for people on the streets, it was us. It was us. It's about a third full now. Maybe when we went, maybe a quarter. It keeps starting to fill. But this vast, largest development project on earth, when they built it, empty. Here's pictures of our trip. Because when you're in Seoul, it's packed.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, people everywhere. And then let's drive out of Seoul for an hour to the Instant City, and this is the subway station. This is the subway train. Nobody on it. By the time we got out to Songdo, not a single person. Here we are, like, where the zombies? You know, that's what it's. So it's. This leads us to a political economy explanation of what's going on in gentrification that is not consumption driven, but is capital investment driven. And this, the big threat in terms of these lowest income neighborhoods is not the yuppie moving in down the block. That's a problem. But it's the global glut of investment capital concentrated in huge sovereign wealth funds and other investors, private wealth funds too, like Blackstone, Saudi Arabia, China, Norway, or private, Britain and New York City private wealth funds. These are the scale of these things. 2.746 billion, I don't know, I guess that's trillion, I don't even know. It's a lot. This is just a map of these huge sovereign wealth funds. How did we get them? I can't tell that detailed story briefly, but you all kind of know, how did this money concentrate at the top? It has to do what we call financialization of the global economy and this kind of building of an economy in which far less money is being held by private wages. Wages are not the path to wealth. Or by the state, like social housing. We're going to build public housing on vast areas of land. We're going to build freeways. That is not, the public is not earning wealth, and nor can average workers. That's disappearing. We're shifting from this wage-driven, what we used to call a real economy, to a financialized economy where the big profits of management is made through investing in stock and deployment of that surplus that's been gathered. Declining real investment in state production of goods, so what we used to call social reproduction. All this leads to this, you said this a little bit, this deregulated international kind of financing, banking sector, promote this kind of liquid economy, and all of this, which we all kind of know. I can't go into detail on this, but I think everybody kind of knows this story of more and more power held by managers and investors in the stock market, and less being earned by wages in this market, and opening up the globe, the currency trading and investment trade across the globe. So China can invest in America. America can invest in Saudi Arabia, opening up on global investment. I'll throw a few charts that indicate some of this. 73 is an important moment, again, 80 as well, when things start to break apart. Hourly compensation, productivity. Workers in America are way more productive than they're being compensated. They used to kind of go together, but now they're not. Well, what does that mean? This difference right here, that's surplus value that's being appropriated by somebody. It's being appropriated by the boss, by the investor. That class money's trickling up because that's being appropriated. It's trickling up, as we all know, to the top 1%. This is a share of income held by the top 1%. This is 40. This is, what year is this? He knows it because they know political economy. When did it start to break apart? 1980.
80 something.
It's always 1980.
Reagan.
It's always the answer. Every chart you look at, it's so important. That moment of 1980. And it all started breaking apart with Reagan. What that means is finance as a share of the GDP. Money held as investment capital now equals 100% of all goods we actually produce in a year. So all the stuff we actually produce, add it all up, we have just as much sitting in a bank ready to invest in something else. This is investment of capital compared to real GDP. See it going up, that's financialization. Now equals 1. of all the GDP we have. Let me give you a little bit more how big it is. In the early 2000s, 70 trillion was in global stock markets. How much is 70 trillion? You can see the Saturday Night Live with Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Numbers get so big, they're just big. Who knows? It's just a big number. But let me give you a sense how big 70 trillion is. Think of everything you bought last year. Everything everybody in America bought and sold. Real things they bought and sold. Every hamburger sold in America. Every bit of kimchi that they eat in Korea. National dish. All the food and restaurants in France, every car, every phone, everything across the globe bought and sold doesn't add up to 70 trillion. The whole globe's actual stuff does not add up to money sitting in investment capital, right? To be invested somewhere. That swelled by the end, 10 years later, to 600 billion. We're talking derivatives, all this money, investment capital, booming, with all this investment money in the financial economy, and 10 times the value of all global output. Today, about 900, way beyond anything we're actually producing, is ready to be invested somewhere. You can read about, if you want to go to NPR, a huge pool of capital, they document some of this about a decade ago. This is a chart, total world wealth and trade, this is gambling, investment gambling, equal to all world wealth. What that means is you got these investment bankers, look, they need to, like you have to, it's difficult. A lot of the proven safe places to invest, municipal bonds, T-bills, low returns. And if you're an investor, it's called a crisis of overaccumulation. There's so much money being held in investors' hands. But if you don't invest in proven strategies that have high rates of return, inflation just eats it up. You lose a ton of money, and new innovators rise, and you're left behind. You got to find a way to invest in a new proven product. It reaches a point where the market is flooded with capital, a massive devaluation is going to occur unless you find a new landing place. A landing place of capital safe from the ravages of inflation. They call this in urban literature spatial fix to the crisis of capital. Too much money at the top has to be invested. The spatial fix is where you find a new frontier of investment. A new devalorized place of land where there's no value in that land, and if that capital can sink there, and it's got a big rent gap. A rent gap means the value of what's there right now compared to what we could erect there is so dramatically different. There's a big rent gap. We can exploit that by tearing down this and erecting that in New York, the penthouse apartment. Well, not then. Today, the penthouse apartment is $250 million there. And it's empty. It's just being held. It's just a spatial fix. It's just like we found somewhere to dump all this money in this devalorized land, erect this glorious new tower, and it holds value. And so that's where we can pour all our money. So we just sit on it, inflation will eat it up. But if we pour it here, our rates are now going up 10 to 20% a year. Because everybody keeps wanting to buy urban real estate. It's become a hot thing. Everybody wants to buy it. I'll buy it now. We'll hold it. 5 years later, we'll sell it for 3 times the value we have just invested in this money. A world drowning in cash destroys the real economy, is what I'm saying. Apartments and economic demand posts like New York, London, and even Denver, which I'll get to, unrelated to the housing needs of actual people. It's tied up in the chaos and imbalance of too much money in big wealth funds that is now sinking itself in urban cities, and people can't keep up. Luxury real estate, in other words, is today the global reserve currency and the primary store of global wealth. And you can read about this. I'll show some quotes by all these large investors. They say, no, don't put it in gold. Silver, the primary store of urban global wealth right now is real estate. Very low property taxes in most of these areas. Safe global cities. They've kind of, made sure that there's no unrest in London and New York. We've kind of calmed down the unrest of the 60s and 70s. Here's some quotes. President and Chief CEO of Corcoran Group, high-end real estate firm. The wealthy want a safe harbor for their money. Appreciation is quite extraordinary. The last 5 years, the market's appreciated 57%. People feel good about putting their cash here. BlackRock. Apartments in Manhattan, Vancouver, London have replaced gold as the primary store of wealth. Bloomberg, gold has lost its luster. Much more accessible for global families to store wealth outside their country in luxury housing. New York Times, majority of the highest end condo owners take steps to keep their identities hidden. Register them in trusts, limited LLCs, they don't even know they own it. Because actually, most of them aren't there. In New York City and Manhattan, 1/4 of every high-end apartment building sits empty, always.
Wow.
In London, half of the highest end apartments sit empty. Because they're not actually, it's not about housing and demand, it's a gold brick storing wealth.
So at city council on housing and homelessness a week or two back, they acknowledged that roughly 49% of all housing in the city of Denver is rental, and they don't know which entities are global real estate trusts because the registration of the properties doesn't match the state listings and the national base of that. Exactly, it's buried. And so even the city and county of Denver does not know who the primary owners of the majority of land in this city for housing is.
So I'm gonna give some examples that I do know of who owns what, but that's, I'm gonna have to, thank you for that lead. I'm gonna look into that testimony myself, where their city's saying we actually don't know who owns a lot of this. That's like New York. We know, I'll let you go next, we know if you look at the top 3 globally, it's the Middle East Sovereign Wealth Fund. I guess Middle East, I don't know, it's a weird phrase, I don't know if that's a particular nation. Anyway, Chinese Sovereign Wealth Fund and the British Private Hedge Fund. China puts $3 billion a year into New York City real estate. How ironic. You know, a communist kind of country that rose up and did it through state planning and now is like pouring their money into low tax property investment globally to make money.
Isn't a lot of the stuff being built in China not even structurally sound? And in Denver, there's the Denver Fugly Facebook group devoted to observing how fantastically ugly all the stuff is, even the stuff that's being billed as luxury apartments. So I mean, it seems as though that plays into the weakness of this as a strategy is that there's fraud and depreciation. They're not counting the depreciation that these things would have even in time, realistically, even if the market continued in its present condition.
Those are good points. Thank you. Just a sec.
I want to give an example from India. In Bombay, the textile mills were located in the center of the city, so there was an enormous strike in '82, which wasn't successful, and it led the textile owners to allow all the mills to just fall apart so that they were closed and sold, and luxury condos were built, tall high-rises, because it was really close, it was really close in, all this land, which had no value because the mills went under.
Rent gap.
Then,
Take the mills out, bring
then
mills
it
in.
was all the,
It's like a
millionaires.
Fort Knox. That's what it is. It's like we're just storing wealth here. Like a lot of them are empty, or they're serving a few very, very rich people. But it's storing wealth. It's different than putting our gold in the bank. It's just putting it in these towers.
I just say that in relation to what you were saying, that there was an interesting story, I think about a month ago, about Chinese investors suing a Vail developer
Okay.
who they invested presumably for this purpose in a real estate development in Vail, and then they discovered that it wasn't anything like what they told it was. Like it belonged on Denver Fugly.
Well, it's tricky when global investment and
Right.
it's part of what leads to Stapleton, for example. If you look at the Green Book of Stapleton when we first planned it, when Denver planners, city council planners came up with it, it was all about we want urban villages, walkability, and mom and pop stores, and something kind of old style. That's kind of funky little. And that was the plan. But the very first businesses that opened up, Quebec, not Quebec Square, I think, not Quebec Square.
29th.
There was a Walmart and like a Home Depot, traditional big box stuff were the first big stores the city opened up. Why? Well, because in the old,
Yeah.
but you have to pay the rent because the way this was financed is the city actually said, we will build all the infrastructure and we'll build the parking lots and we'll build all the roads and we'll lay the water and the electricity, but we don't have high taxes today. It used to be you would just tax the rich and spread it. You would tax people with money and use that to do public infrastructure. Well, we don't tax people with money anymore. You borrow money from investors and say, give us the money to build all this and we'll pay you back. And they go, well, how are you paying it back? And we say to the investors, we're gonna build Stapleton, but we'll pay it back, because the city put 300 million in the Stapleton. We put 300 million. We said, here's how we'll pay it back. For the next 25 years, all the sales tax generated by what we put up, we'll give to you. Well, you can keep it, as well as the property tax for 25 years, and it'll add up to 300 million. And the investors say, okay, well, what business are you opening up? You can't say mom and pop store and, this and that, They're like, well, we're not investing in it then. Because we need to know something we understand. Oh, a Walmart and a Home Depot? Boom. We'll lend you the money and we will take the sales tax revenues. And so in a sense, city planners didn't have a lot of option. If you're gonna build Stapleton and China's giving you the money, the Chinese sovereign investors say, well, we want Walmart.
And segregated use
Yeah.
development pattern.
So once you're in this global market, you compete for like well-known and trusted
Don't
brands.
Walmart's like anchor stores like that come into the communities, don't they expect a certain level of zero tax and they're not paying back because they are that?
Well, sometimes they do that.
Criticism has
Sometimes.
been horrible against them.
But the
They did-
business,
they-
like,
this
well,
particular-
It's not the
Amazon,
first time.
you know.
This is
And that's just
Pay
another,
them to.
but all the products in those stores are made in China, right?
sure.
So that's why they would want those anchor stores that sell Chinese goods.
Well, that may be true. Good point.
Conspiracy.
This is New York, and 1 in 4, as I said. This building is mostly empty. 1 in 4, they just sit empty. They just sit empty, and maybe Bieber's on. He can stay for a couple weeks. It's kind of but otherwise we kind of leave it empty as a store of wealth. This is an example. They call it Billionaires Row. This is just some data. These 7 new residential high-rises, 30% remain unsold, by which they mean it's not even a priority to sell. They'd like to sell them, but it's okay not to. We're just holding that.
And they're also taking land,
It's like a religious
develop as something else.
That's it, right? You take, in fact, a lot of these back to the public housing. When I said we tear down public housing to put up this stuff, public housing sits on prime inner city urban space.
Right.
And that used to be owned collectively by all of us and separate from the market. The great thing we've done over the last 30 years is we have commodified housing everywhere, turned it into a commodity. We've taken public housing from every American city and we got rid of almost all of it and turned it into an investment housing in partnership with private partners on core inner city land. And by making it investable right next to it, these things will go up because, the state-owned public housing, which was like dangerous and we didn't like it and whatever, we didn't understand it, that's gone. And now this new thing is up. And so that's commodifying. In Africa, I read a book called Urban Warfare, and it documents how, just 30 years ago, sub-Saharan Africa, something like 90% of territory is communally owned. But the big thing that they've done now is deeded all that. We got to turn into deeds. We got to turn people into deed holders. This group of villagers that communally owned it. Here's the strategy. We have billions of people that buys them all into the commodity market of housing. And it's true in this country too.
What they did.
We used to be
land was there.
30% homeowners, but we got this drive to go over 50% homeowners, invest everybody in the housing market, and invest your life and your destiny for decades into paying that interest. And then it's just a very different model than housing's not a commodity. The state's gonna own a lot of it. And we're gonna have, rent's not gonna be high, and you're just not gonna make money off housing. But in the last 30 years, a new model is make lots of money off housing, everybody can. Start here,
Not exactly everybody.
starts here, well, that's the image. Starts here, and then it radiates.
I suppose this is why the city didn't even feel the need to explain why they were getting rid of a 36-unit apartment building they owned at the time of the passage of the urban camping ban. Like Benny Miller said, it was just an offhand remark. We're selling a 36-unit apartment building we've been using for transitional housing.
The state
Why?
of Denver has
It never, nobody ever bothered.
almost all publicly owned housing in Denver is no longer fully.
Because they think it's more
private
profitable
partner
to do something.
partnership. It invests the private market into it. The idea is that that'll maintain it better over the long run. In London, half of new luxury flats fail to sell, and they have another 420 towers in the pipeline. All the 15,000 are on the market, which, that's in London. This is a Select Property Group's a big London investor. UK property replaces gold as an investor safe haven. They reported in 2015. These are vertical gold bricks in Bordeaux, China. Or maybe gold mines. I like to call this gold mines too, vertical mines. So you mine the sky. and it attracts wealth to it. It attracts all the dreams and hopes of people like, oh, we can make money, everybody gets attracted, and the investors mine that wealth out. The immense wealth that may be available in land. Put in vertical gold mine the wealth out, and 30% returns a year. And that's what's going on here.
Stalinist.
They don't even have roads there, and the buildings are up.
Isn't it crazy? This is Songdo here, with they actually have lots of roads, and it's all well built, and it's about 30% full. More than $1 trillion poured into here, and it's only banned for a third of the units. Now back to Denver. We can have more discussion. Because all that's the global scene, but it shows up right here in Denver. It's driving so much what's happening on our streets in Denver. This global economy. 5 points. I already gave you some data. Used to be 60% African American, 50 to 60, and now it's dropping down. Property values have more than doubled in the last decade. It's just changed. One of the leading forces of that change is Palisade Partners. Palisade Partners owns like 5 properties right on Welton Street. It's an investment group. It's what it says. You go to their website, it says, we deliver top rates of return to our investors. So you invest, you can put your money, I don't know what their buy-in is, it's not the stock market. You put your private money into Palisade Partners, become one of the investor partners, and they go out and buy properties in what they call transitional markets. Markets with rent gaps. Markets like, rents are low now, but we're going to turn into high. They own the Wheatley, the Lydia, the Hooper, you know, Welton Street. All of these owned by Palisade Partners, and the Rossonian Hotel. They've owned it for so long. And what's in the Rossonian Hotel?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's a beautiful piece of old historic property. It used to be, you know, jazz club and hotel because African American entertainers could entertain downtown, but could not stay downtown. So many of them, Louis Armstrong and others, had to stay at the Rossonian, which was a beautiful hotel, but that was for the black population. It's a beautiful old building. It's been, I don't know how long, a decade or something, just empty, where they've just held it.
Well, they had something there for
And
Jazz Fest.
Now, so they do things, but in terms of like operating, you know, like on a regular basis, they are saying now, and you can go by and they're doing a lot of rehab in there. It's all being rehabilitated now, and it's going to reopen as a new hotel coming. But it just held value for 10 years, waiting for the investment to came. And this is a this is not a just Denver investment company. This is across the West. Mostly, it's not global as much. It's mostly Western, investing in Palisade Partners to make money off mining the land in 5 points. Or how about who might this be? This is actually an imagery from their website. Say it.
Stapleton.
Yes, correspondence. Stapleton. Good old Stapleton. Looks much different than the actual Stapleton. This is.
I live in Park Hill, right on the corner of that, but.
I love all the trees and.
It's so
Yeah,
cute.
yeah.
It's lovely. One way to see gentrification is to say these
If you were
people
a tree, would you want to be?
with families are now want to be urban when they didn't used to be. And so a lot of them are coming back in the city in places like Stapleton. And that's part of the story. And that's an interesting dynamic to tell, is what does this mean culturally and how we're changing. So, I just think these guys aren't really the force. Stapleton was built before they ever showed up. And it was built and marketed and created as something that was available and possible to buy, and our desires and dreams were partly created by it for us. By who? By Brookfield, which is they bought 18 billion cash they used to buy out a couple of competitors in an all-cash deal and became a large real estate investment trust that owns Stapleton. So this is Brookfield, and they own Stapleton. Well, they sell it to people, but they own the land, and they own the profitability. As they sell it, they get the profit. They also get taxes. As I said, all property taxes and all sales taxes in Stapleton go to them for 25 years. So this is who owns Stapleton. And if you read all these things, it's a estimate. It intends to offer investors economic equivalents in the form of real estate investment trust security. Dividends are identical. It's just an investment. Yeah. Post properties. That's how I got to meet Charmaine. When I met Charmaine, she was living right across the street at East Village, which was one of the city's largest public housing projects in Denver. Post was the first tax increment finance big subsidy project we did in Denver, where we told the developer, if you come to Denver, we will offer you $100 million to
Village, is that
build
on Park Avenue?
in the future. And what we'll do is all the taxes you generate for 25 years, all the real estate taxes, et cetera, you can just keep that with the plan. Post was one of the first. They came. They built. They wanted to kind of grow throughout Curtis Park, over East Village. They wanted to take it all. right? The struggle was over, was just Post get this. Well, Post is a real estate investment trust. Again, global, it's just a trust that you can invest in as a global investor. They're not just a property owner in the same way, they're investors. And they're actually just recently bought by MAA, creating a $17 billion REIT, one of the largest. They just got bought up a few years ago. There's another kind of global investor that made, and all of these are like, you understand gentrification in Denver, you have to understand the Rossonian and Welton Street and what's happened. Well, that's global investment capital. You have to understand Curtis Park. This made gentrification kick off in Curtis Park. It was a global investor that started there in Curtis Park. Blackstone. You just said we don't know who owns what, this guy said. Blackstone just bought $18 billion of Denver properties downtown, 179 million square feet of urban infill from Singapore. It will double their investing, but they won't say what they bought. They won't list, it's all secret right now. They do admit, we just bought millions more square feet of 11 properties from Singapore. We're going to like upgrade it. Well, we actually don't know yet what they bought. It just happened. This is their portfolio of Blackstone in America, of their top cities, how many properties they own.
Well, and those are industrial properties, so are they distressed in the?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what they are, but they're like, I'm sure it's like the old Gates factory. These are places ready to be, the old textile mills, ready to be.
Is it all that, or is it going concerns? I mean, they're described as industrial properties.
It probably just
To
needs
tell
a
the fact that
zoning.
That's interesting.
because Blackstone.
Oh,
But here's some stuff that is coming.
Oh my God.
This is coming. In the next 5 years, these things are going up. Block 162 at 15th in California. That's going up.
I think
It's built by the Petrinelli Group. They're the people that are making it happen. That's a global investment company. It's all about opportunistic development and value add in key markets. Opportunistic development and value add. The company's focused on, flow growth and capital appreciation. Cash flow growth. So that's how capital works. But it's just to understand how what's happening on the ground here. It's not local. It's a global market. They're pouring into Denver. Two Tabor is coming at 1200 17th Street. That's Ivanhoe Cambridge out of Canada. They're building that one. As an investment, they're not going to own it. This one, everybody. Here we are, literally right here is our building. Look across the street. A sliver. We'll see.
Oh, the built, so they're finally.
Well, I was just going to say, he's been trying to get this built for years. This guy named Buzz Geller. He's continuing to try. We'll see, but it speaks to what drives this investment in gentrification. Buzz Geller owns this. It's a long story of how he got a hold of it. But he's a Denver developer. He wants to get this built. He wants each floor, 35 stories. Each floor is one owner. You just own the whole floor. Like 8,000 feet. You own it. And each floor is one. He says we want the top properties in every. You get a private concierge for each floor. There's an elevator going into your unit, like a private dog walker to take care of your dog. All of it. It'll just be some of the glorious housing. But he says these won't be Denver people living here. He said I'm looking for the top 1% of 1% across the world. I'm looking for 35 of the richest people to buy one of these units and just own it. And he says, I don't imagine some of them will live here. They'll be investors. We will be like New York and London. Investment quality properties. Here's this quote. We are talking about the upper 10th of the top 1% of people in the world. There'll be 35 units priced between $3 and $7 million. This is like 5 years old. So whatever it is now. I'm looking for, maybe 7 to 10 now. I am looking for 35 people out of 6 billion. All of the interest is Asia and South America. I don't know this will ever be built. He keeps fighting to get built, but it's still trying. But it speaks to that big, immense global pool of capital wanting to land. Finally, the Four Seasons.
So, you keep talking about these buildings that are going up that are empty, and because they are gold bars, they're automatically making money as investments. But if they're automatically worth a ton of money, what would be the big deal to let people live in those spaces if they're sitting there empty? I mean, like if you could, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around having these empty apartments just because
They wouldn't be
you can.
luxury apartments if you gave them
Yeah.
away or rented
Well, I
them for
wouldn't say
cheap.
give them away, but if they're just gonna sit there, why wouldn't you let people live there for
There's a book-
something affordable, I guess?
There's a book by Jeff Farrell called Tearing Down the Streets. He's an urban anarchist scholar.
Not saying.
Just go
like,
actually
just
squat.
what I'm saying, yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you go look in London and Barcelona,
Oh,
there is this
tons.
global squatting movement where they take over these
Yeah.
and live in them. And
Well,
Not in
so
I'm not saying let people live there for free, but if they could pay something.
Put some homeless people in them
additional
luxury
money on
apartments.
top of this investment of having
Not for-
I guess
for
these are
profit.
good questions. Maybe it's kind of what he said. You don't want to like paint it with the smell of
Right.
Poor
common
people.
people.
You're trading one sort of management for another. It's being managed as a pristine, never been lived in luxury apartment versus it's been given over. It's a
But it's not a moneymaker if people aren't living there and they can't go to the local grocery and they're not. It's
oh
not
yeah,
a-
no.
it's
I
not a
don't know
fun.
how they're making money.
But
I
the
don't-
smell
do
issue
it.
is really important. The new South Korean movie
Yeah,
Parasite.
Oh,
The rich people keep
So-
talking about the smell of the poor people.
Of the what did you
Yeah.
say?
So in other words, these poor people,
South Korea, you make
it's
reference to
a,
Korea?
it's a Korean
Yeah.
movie, Parasite.
Parasite.
At the Shehart East, it's
so
really
there's
good.
that cultural distaste,
At
and,
that,
and Mitch was saying,
I wonder if it's something to do with, if you let someone in and it continues to gain value, you can't remove them and get renewed value. So you're kind of, you're short
it's
selling
less
investment.
liquid. It's
Yeah,
less liquid.
less, you're hurting your own equity.
How's it
And
get
it's
rid
just,
of
it's hard to be a landlord, right?
One of the names.
But you can hire someone to, I'm just saying.
It's only been fund manager. I don't know. I just know
Don't you
they're
make
not.
a lot of money and still? Yeah.
Sorry. Here's the Four Seasons, and I'll be quitting and other things we want to say. The Four Seasons is the most expensive private property in Denver right now. It won't be if, Geller gets his sliver.
No.
But, right next door. Put it up, it cost $350 million to put up. That was 10 years ago or so. Fourth tallest, 650 feet. It's got 102 condos, penthouses going for about 11 million. Up at the top here. It is a second home for global jet setters. A lot of the property in this building. It's most of those 35, about half of them I read were second homes. Okay, for global jet setters.
Third homes.
You get a maybe third, right? You get a private concierge, a mail room, private mail room, and delivery, private elevators, 24-hour access to including housekeeping, pet walking, plant care, private chef, in-home catering and room service, and a little in-home spa with people that treat you. So it's like really nice stuff. For what you sure it's like a hotel, but it's a unit. Built by Global Securities Market, Capital pouring in. Who built it? The top two ownership. Four Seasons doesn't own. Four Seasons operates high residential living hotels. They didn't build it nor own it. Who owns it? Two top companies. Goes Grupo Denim Company and London's Cairn Capital. What is Denim? Well, Grupo Denim down there is a maquiladoras company. They're on the maquiladoras, and they are one of the world's largest manufacturer of jeans and things. So they sell the Wrangler, DKNY, Ralph Lauren.
And they make so
sell-
much money at it that they're moved into.
Yeah.
So much money. Now, if you're in the maquiladoras paying nothing,
Yeah.
and you're selling jeans to all the top companies, pouring money is pouring up to you.
First they put
Now, what do I do with all this money? Well, I'm going to dump it into the Four Seasons. I'm going to dump it into the Four Seasons and just hold value. That's exactly what it is. I just have so much money, I'm going to dump it in here. Yeah.
So who's the constructed, owned the construction of that?
Sending money to Cayman
That was one of
Islands.
the larger ones. And there's a movie about this, you can see, because that's the story in itself. The general contractor.
In the
Swinnerton
Cayman
was a general
Islands.
contractor. They sublet, for different things. When you get to the drywall, they said, yes, we're the general contractor, but we're going to subcontract this drywall guy who's going to do all the drywall. He sublet again to a company named Leno to go headhunt for workers. SpaceCon Leno. SpaceCon Leno went down south of the border and found a bunch of workers. Hey, we got jobs for you up here on temporary permits. Come up and work at the building the Four Seasons. And they brought up several hundred low-wage, non-union laborers to come do the drywall. They brought them all up, put them in the mountains, just up past Morrison towards Idaho Springs, housed them there for a few weeks, and then said, now we need about 40 of you to actually do drywall. They didn't need them all. So they ended up like as you can imagine how that goes. It's an industrial reserve army of labor. The ones that are most amenable and look like they're not gonna cause the worst trouble, they're gonna be good, those are the ones we're now taking downtown and working. These other 60, we actually don't work for you. So those people are now problematic and needed to go back home, but they've just spent a bunch of money and time. And it led to a big stink, protest against this company, hiring essential day laborers, very low wage, you know, questionable documents that are from Mexico, brought it 60 other folk and just abused and mistreated, and now they're stuck like in the mountains and have to find their way back to Mexico. So it led to a big thing, and it led to a bit of film. There's a film about this showing it. I can't find it online, but I went to it like 15 years ago. I went to at the Tivoli. They showed this film, so I saw the film of how this all happened. Spacecom Leno sued them, said you guys are disparaging us and defaming us with this film, saying how badly we mistreated our workers. So we are hammering you, the independent filmmaker, just a local like Denver guy. Took him all the way to court. The guy had a really good defense against defamation and libel in court, which is always the best defense. And that's what the judge said. He goes, everything we see in the record here is all true. So since it's all true, they can't be libeling. And so that's how that long answer to your question. I don't know if Slenderton was one of the lead contractors, how much they did or didn't know about some of the nastiness and that. That's one story I know about how this thing got built. Okay, so that's one is Denham Grupo. The other big company that is investing in this is Cairn. It's a London currency trading company. So they trade global currencies. That's how they make their money. Sell yen for, euros, back and forth. They sell and make money just trading currencies. And then they piled up all this money trading currencies and dropped it all in, a bunch of it into the Four Seasons. Those are the two big investors. Other investors are, number 3 is Goldman Sachs. Number 4 is a group of German banks led by Munich AG. And then following them is Japanese lenders led by Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance Company. It's all finance and insurance and all that. They poured their money into this, which is being they sell for investment property, which in units. So I think in appealing to global capital, the Four Seasons, Geller's Tower, trying to get these big REIT, real estate investment trust investments, they aren't driven by local property markets. They're building Denver by speculation and hoping to cash in by the creative destruction of what's there. You have to creatively destroy kind of low-income pieces that are there. That's a landscape of immense wealth ready to be taken if what's there can be moved off for this. But what's there are very low-income people. And finally,
Is the Spider building the same?
no, that's like next to it.
No, I know, but I'm asking,
Yeah.
is it the same situation?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's right. I'll say that. I think all this is going on. It has this disturbing element to it too. Think back where you had you found a new frontier of wealth. Whether it was in some area that hasn't been developed by Western capital, and you have to destroy the people that are there, destroy their ownership patterns, destroy their life patterns to valorize that, to capitalize that wealth. And colonial powers have always done that, suck money up to the center. So I think that you can see some of that same dynamic here, where you're involving land that is long owned by very low income, but largely non-white populations in our cities. They've owned it for decades and decades for reasons of American history. But their land now has suddenly become possibly incredibly profitable store wealth if those people can move off. And so that is the dynamic of gentrification, which is colonial, in a sense, moving those people off, global imperial money coming in, throwing up gold mines, vertical gold mines, and attracting wealth to them. They become like anchors or magnets attracting wealth. And when they attract wealth, they can sell for more than they bought. And that's why Denver gentrification is tied to global economy.
Thank you.
That's all I have to
Admirable job connecting these ideas.
That's scary.
There's about 15 minutes if people just want to talk, throw things out.
Well, what can be done to fight back?
Hi. It's the board. No, it's it can be done to fight back. One, housing cannot be a commodity. Start there. So Mitch. Some housing can be not as okay. Let me put it this way. Maybe we'll be somewhere halfway. There needs to be a robust state-owned housing sector. And I mean housing that is for the robust amount of it, that is not for a commodity. Where you take big segments of downtown land and you say, this is publicly owned land. And the state owns it, and the people own it, and we're gonna have just average folk, low-income people with no money at all, live here, and we all own it. And it is not in the market. You don't make money off it, you don't profit on it, you don't trade it. It is socially owned. So that's taken the surplus, because we make surplus wealth in America, right? So instead of allowing all that surplus to be privatized in investment funds and then gentrification, we socialize the surplus. We tax it away and buy public land. Now, how to get there is complicated. There's other solutions too, but I'd start there. Mitch didn't buy it. He was like, come on, really? So I'm not saying no housing can be a commodity, but we need a big chunk that is socially owned.
So how about tying rent controls into that?
Well,
Because
that's another way to socialize the surplus.
right, because the reality is that if you see a 300% profit margin, you're gonna ask for that profit margin. But if margin is reduced to 15%, some nominal gain that isn't focusing on my 401k, receiving 20% profit ratios every quarter.
Yeah, these are all ways to, good points. These are all ways to say basically housing's not gonna be so much of a.
That would cut off
You're
the
gonna cut your
construction
rents,
of
we're gonna socialize your
towers in
housing.
Denver pretty
We have
rapidly.
deed restrictions where it says you buy it, but each year can only appreciate 3%. You do this,
That's a
low
direct
income
way.
person, you can buy the house, but now it's only gonna appreciate a few percent a year. These are all ways to take housing off the market and keep it socially.
To stop people from making money who might otherwise make money.
Well, it's to prevent people who would
Yeah, no,
purchase to
institute
make
socialism.
money. Yeah.
If socialism becomes an acceptable political movement again, as it was 100 years ago, or closer to being so.
What about like East Park Hill that's being developed, and then they started with, they're trying to convince everybody there that making multi-unit housing is a good thing instead of single housing because it offers more housing. But, which is great, I'm on with that one, but is it gonna be more housing that no one can afford? Because in our community, it's not high
Extremely ugly.
end.
It has to be both.
Yeah,
It has to be
so
extremely
you're
ugly
looking
and
at
affordable.
adding more multi-unit housing, but still reducing affordable housing within that group. How do we stop that?
So I'm gonna not talk all the time. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I think is, you said something about buying land downtown, for the public, but I think it's really important that the land be across the whole city.
Right.
That we build truly diverse communities. So I think one of the problems that in what's happened over the last 50 years is that we segregated people, and very intentionally, like the government housing was segregated, and that's where the Latinos will live, and that's where the African Americans will live, and I think that really hurt us. I think if we have the opportunity to blow the system up and redo it, and actually have affordable housing and mixed different types of housing, that we should really consciously build integrated neighborhoods so that people aren't just living with people like them. Because when they only live with people like them, it's easy to see them as non-human, as other. So I just want to throw that out as something I think is important.
There's someone, I saw their hands up before we run down.
This is too tangential, let me know, but how does this compare to China's Belt and Road Initiative, where they're investing in not so much housing, but infrastructure, public works, those sorts of things? Is that a similar story, different story? Because this is a really great talk, thank you. I would think that people could also be investing in other things other than housing, right? It could be casinos, it could be bridges, it could be, so is that a similar story? Is that related?
I don't know enough about the Belt and Road Initiative.
Well, they're just investing.
I know about it.
Globally in infrastructure as opposed to housing.
They're investing because it's a profitable, it's a profit-taking initiative.
Yeah.
But it also has, it's a little different than building these random towers out in the desert. It's kind of strategically tied to road networks and kind of linking China to the rest of the world. You see it as linked to a broader social purpose than just taking profit. But those are, but I imagine just what you say, like if you invest along that road, kind of like a light rail stop. RTD light rail is a good social purpose to build lots of light rail, but if you buy property on those light rail stops, you're doing well. because it drives up property value. So I know that urban real estate is like a top driver right now of big investment. I imagine some of that real estate is infrastructure type stuff around the road. Yeah, I imagine.
So what about individually owned properties when they're building up, right? That's something that is, if you own your condo or your pad or whatever, right? Then you might have a 10-story building and 6 units per floor or whatever, but each one of those is individually owned. How does that process or that model help slow down this?
I don't know that it slows it down so much. I think it's all of this global capital market, this global investment. It shows up both in these buildings that are empty, but it shows up also in increasing ease of getting real estate loans that are way out of proportion to what that real estate was ever worth. So all this money gets poured into the real estate market, and people can refinance and double and triple the value of their home without anything happening. Their home did nothing change other than all that global money came. So it's just a lower level, I think, of participation in the global commodification of housing. Yes, I own that unit, then how did it triple or quadruple in value? It did because of this kind of global investment bubble. And there are many people who do very well by this. Okay? Anybody that owned their home and bought a home 15 years ago with 5 points has made a lot of money. So there aren't many people that, but it's a minority of our population. There's many problems with it. There are so many people, anyway, I don't know if I'm answering your question. So I don't know that it slows it down. It's the same process, another level of it.
We're building crud. Is it Paolo Soleri? Do I have the name correct?
He writes books
The
about
idea of
cities.
the arcology.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we want to live? We lived in many ways in more civilized buildings. The further back you go, the nicer they are, almost up to a point.
You don't like that stuff?
Well, no, not aesthetically from the outside. I'm sure with 8,000 square feet of space inside, you can do anything you want to.
Yeah.
But
I like, for what it's worth, there's no counting for taste. I like the big new pretty buildings. I'm just outraged by the inequity of it and the people that are suffering. But look at them. Maybe we disagree.
I don't think that our housing
Yeah.
projects, our multi-unit buildings, are aesthetically pleasing or particularly livable. I mean, I don't think they are designed for people to live in particularly. I mean, the spaces will live there, but as far as interacting and being an organic part of the landscape, no.
This just looks like a giant bubble to me, though.
Yes.
How long can you keep
Right.
billions of dollars in an empty investment?
Till the last fool, right? Till the last fool buys from you.
Well, I mean, so you got somebody, you, whoever you are, you have so much money you don't care about it, but it's not really productive investment unless somehow, if population just keeps going out of control and there's always demand for space and
Yeah, when does the bubble burst?
Yeah.
Right.
It's gonna take, because salaries aren't increasing at the rate of housing, and
Right.
so if you've got high-end luxury sitting as a land investment, to me, it's only valuable if someone's willing to pay the money for it. So, in New York, they're holding on to properties because they're in a low market right now, so people that can sit on their properties are waiting. But what's gonna create that shift if salaries aren't increasing or there's not more industry
Top
coming in or
1%.
people,
Salaries are increasing, but are there enough of them?
Right.
It's a little bit like gold in that it's not worth anything really, right? And but you can ride out whatever recession or depression happens. Hold on to your gold. It's a real thing, and maybe the housing's a little bit that way too. Yes, the bubble will burst, people will be squeezed, but in the end, you still own this building. In the end, you still own this building, which later on you can recapitalize or something.
All right, let me ask it in a different way.
Yeah.
So in Capital in the 21st Century, Piketty, the French economist, and his team of economists have shown, they think, and I'm convinced, that for recent decades especially, an ever-increasing percentage of the benefits of growth are going to capital over labor. Not sustainable. Now, unlike Marx, and he's referring to with his title, Capital, he's a friend of capitalism, and he wants to save it. It's not sustainable, he says, because when you are underpaying labor, over rewarding capital, when the workers turn around as consumers, they don't have enough income to buy their collective product. So that's a contradiction of capitalism. Okay, so that's another way of describing it as a bubble.
So, sure.
So is you right?
How do you disagree with their view? Yes.
You
All I
gotta
was
pay
saying is
workers
that
more.
at least when the bubble burst, if you own that tower, you still own the tower. That's why it doesn't disappear into like .com etherealness. It's a bar of gold in a sense, so there's that.
What's a work of art to you?
It's
What
a
else
work
is
of
it?
art. This speaks to that a little bit. You can look into this, this is just in Korea. Do I have another one? You can look at this globally too. There's something called the Barclay Skyscraper Index and the theory of skyscraper bursts predicting economic downturn. When we have a moment of a lot of skyscrapers going up globally, it's probably a bubble and everything's going to fall apart. The reason is skyscrapers are built irrationally. There's not a demand for them. They're not filled. It's just there's all this extra capital sitting at the top. So let's build a skyscraper.
We represent economic.
And so you build all these skyscrapers and then the economy crashes. These skyscrapers might still stand, but for a while people are squeezed. So this is, Korean skyscrapers, because I've done some research on this. Burst of skyscrapers, then they had an economic crisis in '97. Then the next peak in recession, 2003, 2008. And you can look at this globally too. There's a large industry of researchers who look at skyscrapers as predictors of coming global collapse. He keeps trying. I don't know. That's the answer. Oh, when he does, get your money out of the stock market.
You want to see Denver's graph.
You use the word collapse. I'm more or less the correct term. Because collapse, I would say devaluing for sure, but collapse means that
Correction, is that?
Yeah, so these crises, which were all squeeze the mice and buy a few other houses for people that are losing, then you do all right. They call it squeezing the mice in the Federal Reserve share card. Sometimes you need to squeeze the mice. Sometimes the rottenness needs to be squeezed out of the system. These are people losing their houses. Millions of people losing their houses. Being,
mice.
Money kept. Squeeze the mice. Because what are they doing at their house? They don't know how to
Less formidable even than rats.
You move that, accumulate that capital upwards, because then you can build ghost cities that are ready to build. Yeah.
I like this, the empty subway cars.
That was a
the
trip.
best.
You take that subway, which is packed every day in Seoul, and you take it to Songdo. By the time you get to the end of Songdo, you're beeping. It's us. Oh, Mike, you were there too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was ghostly.
One last or two last comments, and we'll just wrap it up.
What advice would you give to city council representatives trying to avoid, the burst or avoid all these people being displaced?
One thing that
You mean
30 years ago, this city signed a lot of contracts with developers saying, the next lure, we're a cow town, we don't feel confident. You will build the Pepsi Center, great. You can keep all the tax money. You'll build Stapleton, we just gave it away to lure all these developers. But now, if you actually a city that has gentrified or is kind of taken off, Denver's like hugely attractive real estate. So is San Francisco, so is New York, so is London, so are most. Now all of a sudden have a little confidence and say, we're done with the subsidies. And in fact, if you're going to come, we're not giving you permits unless we see a living wage, but we want to see how you're taking care. And we get back, like, because we're attractive now, we don't need to lure you anymore. And if you don't come, so be it. So I think some of that courage
Reach around the
can be
table.
about those people like
Need a large gun.
to say you're not,
Shoot the old.
that's it.
Right.
Quit subsidizing. We're done.
And the idea that there's so much money that they have to invest, then invest in the community at large and not just in the concrete.
It takes some courage and pride of like, we're not going to scare away the developers. Gaylord wanted to build their whatever 500 million hotel out of the rare. It was like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Although Denver's giving away a lot of money, they weren't going to give away that much. So Gaylord said, we won't go to Denver, we'll go to Aurora. Well, Aurora's a little neurotic. And they were like, yeah, we need some development. So Aurora was far more willing to give the subsidy. But cities need to, in fact, what would be nice is if more and more mayors would come together.
Yeah.
And come together and say, let's all stand together against Amazon getting the subsidy.
Yeah.
Amazon's great, but none of us are given the subsidy at that
Right.
scale. And if
problem
there was
is
more of
when
that, if you go back to New York in the late 1970s, New York had free tuition at CUNY. You could go free, didn't pay tuition. They had the most public housing in the nation. They had high wages, union jobs, big social experiment, public health care in their hospitals. But it was cost a ton of money.
Yeah.
Taxpayers were leaving New York. All this, we're leaving New York where taxes are cheap. And they all left. And the city of New York appealed to the Fed saying, we're going to keep this great liberal experiment alive. The Feds need to be taxing people, even in the suburbs, and sending the money back to the cities. Kind of like a collective stand. And don't let capital escape. But we're in the late 70s now, and the neoliberal turn is coming. So the government said, no, we are not bailing New York out. New York's going to go bankrupt. And now you need to offer subsidies, lower wages, charge tuition at college, because you need to stand on your own feet. We're not going to tax the suburbs for you. Well, if states and cities stand together and say, we're not going to compete against each other, you're not coming here unless, we're going to tax you federally, or nobody's giving you the subsidy. And a little more of that pushes back against capital. You've got to have resistance.
So you're saying that if Denver, Colorado had competent government, that this would become
Well,
possible?
it's tough to pull off. It's tough to pull off because there's lots of cities and lots of states. But if they could somehow stand together, because somebody's prisoner's dilemma.
Sounds like the stuff in fiction, to be sure.
We all
but-
stand together, we do great. But if one person chooses to give the subsidy, they get Amazon, and we all suffer.
Right.
So it's tough to stand together.
Come on, Nick.
We're all done. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
John.
Thanks for joining us, folks.
So we get low income housing in Denver.